Hello guys, this is Natalia. Welcome to session 11 of mobile application testing. How's everyone doing? How was your Halloween, guys? Can you hear me, guys? All right, I see people started typing, so you heard me. Very good. So let's talk a little bit about your homework that you had, and let me just get to the part where you guys were, hold on just 1 second, doing the application of your choice. So as we can see, out of so many people, only one person submitted the homework. Well, guys, it's completely up to you because we don't need to place you for the internship or anything. So it's completely up to you to follow the homework or not to follow. It's just every single homework, every single activity, every single task that I am giving you is for your own benefit. So you adults and you guys decide, do you need it or not? But I'm just telling you that if you reside in the United States, there are so many jobs in mobile application testing industry. So the more you guys practice, it's going to be much easier for you to get into the market. So and so far, let's just go to Sanya's, and I can see it's very good. First, it's organized very well. He did not really follow the what I was asking to do. I was asking to go through the modules and apply the test, but we were talking and I told him, as long as you understand the concept of testing, then you will be able to do that. So it's pretty much clear in here, very well organized, and this is, guys, these are the way, and this is the way you would want to organize your work if you are doing your test cases. Or here, it's also like a description, and it's more like a test plan, and with the test cases, and there is an expected result. So Sanya, are you here? I really like your job and your test cases, and just in general, you pretty much, covered everything what I wanted you guys to cover. Maybe not in the exact order, but I can see there is a job. You put effort, and you also, you included everything that I wanted to see. So great job, thank you, and you guys, please, practice. It is important to practice, especially when you're online group, that you cannot just stop in my office and say, hey, Natalia, how to do that? And I'm not always available, maybe when you need it. Then with your bullet points, guys, some people just, didn't put too much effort into the application, into the bullet points. I gave you, I'm not sure if you guys saw it, so let me just give you again, maybe you can try again. So my idea of these bullet points is not to give like a very like a brief information about project. Why I am asking you to do this? I'm asking you to do this so if you go to the interview, you would be able to describe the project that you were having and you were working on. And you have to create the story, the story that the hiring manager would be interested to hear. Okay, so these are the bullet points that I gave you. The questions is a summary to create your own story and be able to enthusiastically talk about this project, so that you were excited, that you know exactly what you were testing. For some reason, people ignore my question number one. What kind of the application you are testing? And it is important, okay, that you know the difference between native web and mobile applications. You might not know the exact, like a business model, like a membership, okay, but you have to absolutely tell that this application, for example, Lamotive, it was developed for both iOS and Android, to give like a scope of information, okay? And then create the story how you were testing it and what tests you covered. And, it is important to bring the story, to create the story. And this is what makes hiring managers being interested in you and give the scope of what you did and how enthusiastically you did. So maybe, some people I saw, you just grab the description of the application from the internet, to put it in there. Well, it might work, it might not, but it's kind of a, if somebody wants to look up at this application, they will match and see that you just copy it and paste it. So work on it. It is as important to be able to talk about this project as much as testing this. And what else is in here? So pretty much all for now. And checklists, we have people who are who are working on it. So next time, what I'm going to ask you guys to do, you will have to make a comparison between the Walmart mobile web application and native application that you will download from App Store or Google Play. There are so many differences, and I know every single one of them. And I would want you guys to find the difference between Walmart web application and Walmart native application that you will download. Okay, guys, let's go back to our lectures. And today, last time we stopped at the point where we were discussing what smoke and sanity tests are. And here again, the checklist that will help you to make sense of the testing environment. While you are going through the checklist, this will help you in the application to get a stable UI, for example, for this checklist. And this both applies, the slides, you can apply both for mobile, web, and application too. So, no matter what you do, this will help you. So, let's just go through the main points for the checklist. And of course, you guys can create as many points as you want to, but these points absolutely should be covered. So application and web page title as per page's functionality. What I mean in here, nobody is going to give you the build with something which is wrong, implemented wrong. What happens is that during the application development life cycle, some of the pages could be abandoned, like, for example, from the user's floor, where every single screen is preset. So during the application development, some screens are abandoned. But what happens that the titles of the screen could remain in there. And you have to absolutely check if it's matching the content. Then spelling, grammatical mistakes. This is one of the biggest things that we are having in the industry is typos, and we can find lots of grammatical mistakes. Every time you see the text, please scan it, okay, and scan every single dot, every single comma, every single uppercase letter, lowercase letter. There, just look for the inconsistency. Proper field alignment, like for example, left margin and right margin, bottom margin and top margin. So what am I talking about is your application should be distributed evenly on the screen without any shifting to the left, to the right, to the top, to the bottom. Sometime what happens, number 4, this is what we are talking about right now, is developers sometimes change the fonts. Okay, so if you see that, you by now, while you're testing the applications, you have to check what kind of fonts your application is using. So if, for example, application is using a couple of fonts, you just have to know exactly where the mismatch can occur and where it's not. So it's your responsibility to check for that. Proper space between text and text lines and fields. Very often, again, there is no space between words, and you have to catch that. Standard format and size of the bottom. Well, it's pretty much the GUI, the department who is doing the graphics and who is implementing the buttons. But because we all you're representing the user, okay? This is your responsibility to get this, application and check it on a prolonged use. How convenient the buttons are displayed, are they too close, are they too far? Is it possible to tap the button without, moving the phone in one hand? Is it possible to do it while the phone is in, your hand and you can reach it with your finger? So, is the buttons are too small, okay, to do that? Are you hitting the second button while you're pressing the first button? So this is what it is all about. Text box. A text box is a different thing, guys, but it still have to do its job that it is supposed to do. The borders and alignments and the size, length, and the data type. So if the box is a numeric, right, it should only accept the numeric characters. If it's letters, should not accept anything else. Again, the same applies the combo box, and it's also, you have to make sure that it's showing the valid values. Date picker, this is where usually problems come from, not by keyboard from date to date range. If you have to test the calendar, if your application is carrying the calendar, this is, and we see that a lot, especially here in school. We do have some calendars which is embedded into the application. So check everything in there. Also check if you can not only pick the date by hand from the calendar. Check if you can type that date and it's gonna reflect in the calendar. Okay, then we have the mandatory fields identified with the identification like a star sign. And we know that every single field that is marked with a star, it should be completed. And if not, you should receive the message that it should be completed. And again, the images. Images, length, size, alignment. Sometimes images would be stretched or pixelized, or the it's going to be shifted, or the color is not right for your images. So this is considering a bug, so report it. Then we have the functional checklist. And again, like I told you guys, we never do one test at a time. So some fields might be repeating, and you just make notes and understand what it is all about. Mandatory and composite field validation. It's where we do not have like a composite fields. It's where we do not necessarily need to enter any information. So if you do not enter the information in the field which is optional or not mandatory, you should not be receiving the message that you should fill it out. Numeric field does not accept the alphanumeric and proper error message display, so this is pretty clear. Max length checking for specific input field. So it's like a credit card numbers, and the MasterCard, it starts with 5 and a Visa starts with 4. So the application would, display probably the Visa. It's easier. It's 16-digit number, so the number should not exceed the 16 digits for this purpose. Confirmation message for insert, update, and delete operations. You just have to know, what you're doing. So if you're inserting or deleting or updating something, the application should ask you, do you really want to do it? Proceed, or some other notification that something is going to happen. Correct format of the amount value, or should be always digits. Uploaded documents are opened and generated properly. These are for the applications that are supporting different formats for the documentation. Where do you get this information? You get it from your spec. Have all these test documents in different formats available. Create, documents in different formats and try to open it through your application. So this is a validation. It's more like a positive testing, negative, and a page refreshing. System works properly with multiple browsers. You just have to make sure that this pretty much applies for mobile web applications. Check different browsers. Is this application open from the different browsers? And the pagination works and number shows properly. If your application have many pages, check how you can go through each page, check the last page, or does it give you an option to get to page 1, or it goes into the loop. And it's again, this information pretty much could be found in your spec. Check if you have the like a pagination every, like for example 10 pages, sometimes you have to tap the numbers in order to go through the pages. Check if you're at page 1, can you get to page 6 or page 8 without any problems. Just pagination is a very, very complicated thing, and this should be tested really, really thoroughly. Database. Okay, database name tables, columns name, column types, just matching the requirement. Just make sure that if you're putting the name into the last name and some other things, it's not going, to give you like a trouble or something. But the columns names should be properly matched to your spec. And all databases are all about the data saving, okay, data extracting. So the main purpose of the database is to enter the data and have it in there. Also, data display does not matter on what, and you are working. Make sure it's saving it properly. Now, big difference, guys, between the live and a test environment. You have to compare the live and test environment, because in a test environment you might have some like abbreviations or some other things that developers, they forget to remove before putting the application into the live environment. So that's your responsibility. So, and also like a checking procedure, function creation, update related information, like for example, if you have the name and an author. So, databases could be different. You just have to check what is it exactly your database is about, and check every single functionality in there. And this is your guys' security part of the mobile application testing. If you are just entering the mobile application market and you are not hired into the security team, which is a pretty, big professionals. So here, guys, with this checklist, you're pretty much representing the user, okay? How the user would feel if he or she is doing these certain operations. So, session timeout checking whether the page is expiring after the specific time, and this especially applies for the banking or any financial applications or any financial page or checkout page that you guys are using. So if you're idle, your application should give you a warning that the session is gonna expire soon, and then shut down the application. And you will not, and you shouldn't be able to enter it without re-entering your credentials. Now, here's a pretty much like a mobile web. Does the page browse if I paste it in a new open browser? If it's a security, if it's a financial application, you should not be able to open the same page in a different window or browser, because it should give you a message. The page is expired, so you'll have to enter the URL and try again. Browser back forward button checking if the page consists any calculation or information submission. Same thing, we're talking about the banking. You would not be able to use, for example, Bank of America if you're trying to enter something and then you're not saving or you're not proceeding without getting the notification. Resubmitting the page, you should not be able to do it. It is a security issue. Then another big thing, when we are in a testing environment, we're pretty much using the admin rights, okay? Because we need the freedom to to just bypass some steps that users can't. So, and again, you have to get out from the admin's rights when you're using this application and get it as a user to see if you're able to perform some actions. Can you delete something that you shouldn't be able to delete? So, and I can see 2 bugs on this page. Oh, what page, Vladimir? Okay, is it imaginary bugs or what? So, password, account number, credit card number display in encrypted format. So, what is this in here? You should not be able to see either passwords or account number or credit card numbers, basically, should be encrypted. Access the secured application and web page directly without logging. This is what we were talking about, the hard-coded passwords that it is already embedded in the software, so you can just get into the application without credentials. User account gets locked out if the user is entering the wrong password several times. Yes, absolutely. Especially with financial applications, you will need to stay on the phone for quite some time with the security team, for example, in a bank, to prove that you is you, because and to change the password after all verification, so it takes time. So, but your application should be having this option. Okay, let's see, go back to Vladimir. Number 6 and number 7 different size. Number 4. Well, you might be right, It depends of how much text, okay, it is here. Also, it is probably the font. I do not remember, guys, how I did it. Well, let me check for you. Okay, number 5 is okay. Well, at least we have some hope, number 5 is okay. Okay, well, thanks for letting me know. If you remind me later, I will check the slide, okay? Thank you, guys. But, I really like that you see these things. You have to be able to see these things. So it kind of, warms up my heart that you guys are doing well on this one. So who loves games, guys? Who is playing games? Do you play games? Do you play mobile games? Oh boy, Archie, so many. What you guys are playing? What are you playing? Candy Crush. Who is my heroes with Candy Crush? Everybody. Candy Crush. Type 1. Oh, okay. You play how old, Your wife doesn't like when you play games. Oh, well, Donnie, you're in trouble. Okay. So pretty much, right? So I don't need to tell you in a homework that you have to install the game and just play the game, right? So because today we're gonna learn how to test games. So, and why do we have to learn how to, test games? Because mobile games testing, it differs from the regular mobile application testing. So effective mobile game testing derives from a well-structured and systematic approach and a use of test automation framework and seamless integration with, for example, agile process. So naturally, the simplistic view of testing is to identify bugs and help developers to remove them. Well, however, testing, result-driven testing is a mandatory to have test automation for the GUI part. I was talking to the guy who is studying right now in our school, and he's actually, giving like a hour-long presentation with all this pictures and images because he was in, and he still is in the gaming industry, developing games for Android. So it's a very, very cool thing. And I didn't see him in school today because I wanted to ask him to give me permission to post for you some of the work that he did, but I haven't seen him and I cannot do it without his content and letting me do. So, but just in case, if I see him and he gives me the permission, I will post some images for you, and you will see how the mobile games are being developed. So what he says is, I said, so how much automation testing you are using? And he was like, Natalia, we don't almost use automated testing unless we want to check the concurrent users that are playing the game at the same time, unless we are checking just the GUI menus. But you have to be really, really enthusiastic to get into the game testing industry, because you have to know how to play the game. You're having fun and you're making money. So, and it was quite an interesting, like an hour-long presentation, and we saw some videos and we saw some really cool stuff. So let me see if I can share it with you. I'll be happy. Cooper, as far as I heard, gaming QA usually pays less. You are absolutely right. Yes, QA in gaming, it pays less. It's usually the guys who are, they're coming to work from home and they're having fun. Okay, so and because it's mostly manual testing, and they just see the bugs, and it doesn't pay too much, so you cannot really make any lots of money in there. So, but nevertheless, let's talk about the approaches that are being used in mobile games. So first is a black box testing approach, and it focuses on the functional and overall playability aspects of the game. So in this type of testing, for example, testing the graphical user interface, user experience, or any visual appearance is the key role. Menu, graphical elements, special effects, animation, and the actual gameplay, those under test with the black box approach. Then we have the white box testing, and it focuses on the architectural integration and systemic aspects of the mobile game. So how the third-party components and a databases, social media, external entities, as well as like graphic game engines and audio play and so on are integrated into the game. So what are we basically having in here? We are having, hold on, just in here, parts of the testing that we are using in mobile games. And most important are in front of you. So functional testing, one of the biggest tests, and probably the most common methods in mobile game testing. So typically functional testing is associated with the manual testing and playing game through. This is what I was talking to you about. Well, however, to be agile, all functional testing should be automated. Functional testing and it usually goes like with the test of automation frameworks. It requires some basic understanding of programming and setting up environment for testing. And what is good about the automation functional testing? It can reveal issues related to users' interface and graphics and stability. And here we're talking about the game flow mechanism and integration of the graphical assets. And then we go to compatibility testing, and as we know that we call it like a platform and OS, and it's all about making this game compatible across different devices. So typical misconception with compatibility testing is that it will only be done with the final version of the game. And if compatibility testing is done during all the development phases, and we call it smoke test or sanity test, depends how a company calls it. It can basically help to reveal incompatibility issues with any parts of the game, or, for example, third-party components or integrations, or with these actual devices that the end users use. Then we have the performance testing, also a very important part for game testing, because sluggish and badly performing games can ensure the game won't be successful. And I can be sure, I can tell you, and you know exactly yourself, once you get bad rating, it won't make any money. So related to performance testing, it is important to understand how used devices ecosystem varies and what are actual requirements of the game for its users. And then we have, of course, the more the merrier, and this is always the case, localization testing, and it becomes highly important when your game is targeted for the global markets. So in this context, the word global means your game needs to be local for everyone. It does not really matter where you live and where you're from. You have to understand the concept of the game. So when your game titles and text and content need to be translated and tested with devices in multiple languages, these types of tests can be easily performed automatically, believe it or not, to change the language of the device or even do it again with the test run. So the problem layouts can be easily picked from the screenshot. So this part you can automate. Then we have the regression testing, and it needs to happen when anything changes in the software. And as you know, the majority of the mobile games today have a server-client interaction. So, many games, they require a login, uploading the data, downloading data or images, whatever it is. So users need to ensure all these changes are done in the code, because these are pretty much users who are dictating. And you have no idea, in mobile application testing industry, in mobile gaming, there are people, they're basically, they can do it for free, give them the game and they'll try to break it and everything. And of course, guys, the load testing, it tests the limits of the system, such as number of plays on the server, the graphic content on the screen, or memory consumption. Memory consumption, the battery consumption, it is one of the biggest concerns also. And this is what you guys have to check absolutely. So as a summary, let's talk about each of these points for user interface and functionality, because it has a direct impact on how successful your game will be. These two things, including visual appeal and the gameplay, are the most important thing to get right and ensure device fragmentation doesn't break any of this. I was telling you what device fragmentation is. Can you give me the full definition of device fragmentation? What is it? Device fragmentation. Testing your application on... Okay, I'm listening to you. I gave you this definition. It was pretty long, but what is device fragmentation? Do not look up for Google. Okay, different OS versions. What else? Different hardware, different OS. Okay. What else? Screens, resolutions, absolutely. What else? What else? Different browsers, yeah, okay. What else? Different manufacturers, it's devices, okay. Absolutely, run all the OS, some newer ones. Service operators, okay, I would say so. What else? You're almost there, guys. Platforms, well, it's devices, right? Volter. Okay. Couple more things, guys. Come on. There is an exact and, precise definition of the device fragmentation. Okay. Not to waste time, different network connections in different battery stages, okay? Got it, guys? Put it all together and know exactly what device fragmentation is. Yes, we just talked about it. Network connections and battery stages. So, then we have the UI layouts and elements. So all games are typically structured and targeted for maximum set of different screen resolutions and different types of screens. Menu structure and functions, also it's a part of the user interface and functionality. So testing the menu structure, functionality, and correct behavior can be automated with instrumentation and help of different test networks. Also comes the screen orientation, because surprisingly this gets so wrong with many games out there. And for example, if screen orientation changes during the game, so what happens and what actually supposed to happen? Does the game work well in both landscape and portrait? Also part of the screen resolutions, because there are lots of screen resolutions, especially on Android, and typically auto scale can help the game developers. However, guys, it is highly recommended to test your game across these different resolutions to ensure that the graphics do not get stretched. This is the case, okay? Check, your phone can be set to the different resolution. Switch it, play around, see how it goes in there and also recovers. Then we have the graphics performance, and this performance needs to be consistent across all different device variants that your game users have. Because of this, it is highly recommended that you use as many real devices for testing as possible. So in a mobile gaming, the real devices is everything, guys. You get such a consistent result. You see what the problems are. You can debug, because your phone could be easily connected, for example, for Android Studio or any other debugger. Or maybe your company who is producing the game, you know, they have their own insiders to tools. Like, for example, in my company, we never used any third party. We always developed our own tools to test video, audio, and you know, everything, and images. So it was pretty cool because the company could pay to people who can develop these tools, and insider tools, they are always the best. Then, of course, we have the usability and user experience, which translates as the good entertaining. And what are we, you know, usually testing in here? Testing usability, navigation flow, and eventually what user experience your game delivers to gamers simply cannot be done on a desktop with a mouse and a keyboard. Again, guys, this is real devices. Forget emulators and use only real device for testing. User interactions and excellent responsiveness is the part of usability and the user experience. So it is important to test the game for its performance, as this will make either the positive or negative user experience. And real occurring events on the background, like for example, we know all about the interruption tests, right? The battery consumption, how charge affects to overall performance. This all have significant impact on the user experience. Then, of course, you know, we love the games where we can interact with others, right? So, and here goes the multiplayer and the user features. And it is common right now, nothing new. A need to test multiplayer abilities is there, and it's naturally more challenging and requires the other end to perform as a real counterpart. As an example, like a typical case is that the game communicates with a backend server, and this case is like in this cases the connectivity is essential, and it's all about the synchronization between the back end and devices that need to get information about the gameplay. So then we have the social integrations, also important, and in many games it is essential to be able to share results across your ecosystem, friends, or just yourself. So this should be thoroughly tested in the context of real Android and iOS devices. And of course, that could have the different OS versions and different device configurations. So to understand the functionality and easiness of use. Then we have the security and liabilities, and nearly all game developers use some open source components as part of their games. So it is highly recommended and well accepted development practice, as offloads the task of developing code for non-core functions in your mobile game. So, but guys, you know, however, identifying third-party code, its vulnerabilities and license restrictions are very often neglected these days by the developers. So, you know, gaming is kind of the standalone industry. Lots of guys, you know, young guys, they're entering it as a, like, entrance to the big testing world. Anybody into the mobile game testing, guys? Any of you in here? Okay, what are you testing, Alexei? What are you testing? Are you like working? Oh, okay, can say, so you're covered with the non-disclosure agreement. That's fine. So is the applications being developed? What kind of the app? Is it Android or iOS? What is that? I'm just curious. It's interesting. Oh, it's both. Okay, okay. So it's not in the market yet. Okay, okay. So, do you have lots of bugs in there? Huh? Do you have bugs in there? Okay. Soon. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, I'll shut up. I'm sorry. So Sanya was testing about 20 apps on U-Test. Okay. So maybe you can share a little bit. That's why, you were doing so good into this, into you when I asked you to do that. So you see, guys, anybody else with U-Test? Okay. All right. Well, I'm not gonna pressure you. I really, I don't want to get anything out of it. It's just, just curious, what kind of audience I have in here. So I see that you guys are doing very well. So anyway, reporting bugs. Finding bugs, it is fun in our profession. So let's just get a little bit into these different, different thing. It's banking, okay? It's more serious. Again, guys, I see people, finding jobs in the banking industry, QA, of course, QA. So, and banking applications, they're basically considered to be one of the most complex applications in today's software development and testing industry. So what makes banking application so complex? What do you guys think, and what approach should be followed in order to test complex workflows involved? Because security, security, security. Absolutely, guys, security, security, security. Because everything which is involved money, then what we have to test. So banking applications, they deal and directly deal with the confidential financial data. It is a mandatory that all the activities performed by banking software run smoothly and without any error. Banking software perform various functions like transferring and depositing funds, balance inquiry, transaction history, withdrawal, and so on. So as you can see, testing banking application assures that these activities are not only executed well, but also remain protected from hackers. So what is domain testing? Why domain testing? It matters. The knowledge matters. So what is domain? Let's just talk about that. Domain is nothing but the industry for which the software testing project is created. So when we talk about software project or development, this term is also often referred. For example, insurance domain, banking domain, retail domain, telecom domain. And usually while developing any specific domain project, domain expert help in sort out. So domain expert are master of the subject, and he may know the inside out of the product and application. And why domain knowledge matters? It is very essential for testing, and it has its own benefits, like you see on the screen. It reduces the training time. It helps in quick defect tracking, gives good idea of UI features and back-end processing. You can get a good hold of a workflow and business processes and a rule, and it also helps to understand easily the technical terminology. So basically, banking domain is huge, and it's subcategorized into two sectors, like a traditional banking sector and the service banking sector. And if you can see traditional banking sector, it includes core banking, corporate banking, retail banking, and the core corporate retail loan, trade finance, private banking, consumer finance, Islamic banking, customer delivery channels, and front and end delivery. So usually people in this part, they are asking me, Natalia, what is the Islamic banking? Well, it is a big banking sector that is covering about 2.2% of the whole banking market. It is based on the rules and laws where there is no transaction could be accepted or exchanged or transferred that are coming from the alcohol, drugs, tobacco, and legal, the prostitution or anything, any illegal gambling, any illegal activities. And Islamic banking, believe it or not, it's charge free. It's a percentage free. Okay, so big banking domain. This is where usually people are asking me questions. So as you can see, there are a few very important parts and characteristics of the banking application. So what is, does it work Fridays? I'm not sure, Cooper. I'm sorry. Well, you know, have no idea. I've never participated in that, and I have no idea, so I cannot give you this answer. But Google it. You see, you know, hopefully you're not banned from Google, right? Check it if you want to. So back to our slide. What is banking? The more the merrier again. And of course, it should support thousands of concurrent user sessions. Should be integrated with the different applications like trading accounts, so bill pay utilities or credit cards, so you can, you know, move the transactions back and forth. Also, these transactions should be fast and secure. And of course, banks have the huge storage system. And it's not only one storage system, it's pretty much, you know, they're spread it all over the world. To troubleshoot customer issues, it should have high auditing capabilities. So anybody who is having a problem, the customers who are having the problem should have a good connection to the banks. To handle complex business workflows, also support multiple platforms like Mac, Linux, Unix, Windows. Also support users from multiple locations, so it's pretty much, you know, 24/7 operations with lots of localization because of the multilingual users. Even here in the United States, you go to the bank, you know, their localization, not the issues, the localization opportunities for everybody. So it's just kind of one of the things to attract customers, and it's provided, you know, the translators are provided. All these pages could be translated into any language. So then, of course, big thing is a Visa, Amex, and MasterCard support, because we are consistently using. I hardly have any cash in my pocket. You know, I always use my cards, my debit cards, my credit cards, and because it's much easier right now. Also, it should support multiple service sectors, like loans and retail banking, and of course, you know, it's foolproof disaster management, how your bank is handling the foolproof, how disaster, what if something, what if it's an earthquake, what is the flood, what is it possible, for the customer to have their money, at least, to survive if they don't have it. So it's all, kind of being tested, guys, by somebody. So it's kind of a ocean and ocean of work in the banking. So basically, guys, it is some stages, and we will, go through it next time. We'll go through what's needed for testing for the different stage when you do the requirement analysis, requirement review, business requirement documentation, and a database testing, integration, functional testing, security testing, like I said, if we get our hands on to the banking application, we can do some security testing, usability testing, and user acceptance testing. So as a homework, guys, you're gonna be asked to find the banking or any financial application and create test cases for one module, for example, money transfer or something. I will post your homework tomorrow, okay? And I will see you guys on Monday. Have a nice weekend, and thank you so much for being with me. Bye-bye.